Hello, this is a tutorial on how to do basic shading. I'm going to show you some geometric shapes as well as some practicals, shading on characters, things like that. So let's start with this sphere because that's quite basic. I'm going to draw a circle here. It's not perfect, but that's alright. Then we're going to create a new layer and then create a clipping mask. We'll come back to that later, but for now I want to demonstrate something. So I want my light source. I want my light source to come like this and hit the plane as such. So what I'm going to do is create shading in the opposite direction of this light source. I'm going to use maybe a value of magenta. It's always nice to experiment with different colors rather than just your standard red like this. Each different tone you use will give a different effect. I'm just gonna put this shading in the opposite direction of the light source. Next, there's going to be this reflection on the ground. In order to emulate that, I'm going to go to my eraser tool, maybe an airbrush, something really like not as much substance, very airy. Let's see. Let's just do a lower opacity of this. That'll work. So that's basically the reflection. You can make it as light as you like. And how about let's draw what this is actually reflecting. This is reflecting the ground. So I'm going to make a layer underneath our sphere. And I'm going to make a shadow, like so. Now, the thing that's missing from this is actually a highlight. So we're going to create the highlight exactly where this light hits. So let's use a yellow. And you know what? Airbrush actually works for this just fine. Something like that. I think it would be a little bit better if we just went in this one more time. There we go. And you can refine it a bit. And that's basically how you shade a sphere. Now, what if the light source was different? I'm going to pretend that our light source is from a different point. Okay. So what if our light source what if it came from here and it hit the ball like this? Now, the shading's going to be very different. Let's create that layer again. I'm going to use a similar magenta color. And again, I'm going to shade every part. I'm going to shade the opposite of where the light is hitting. Now this is also going to have somewhat of a little bit of a reflection onto the ground. Maybe not that harsh. There we go, just a little bit. And this time, the shadow is actually going to be in front of our object because the light is coming from behind. So, just like that. And in some styles, the shadow may fade as it gets further away, like this. And we could also go in and add a little highlight. Like so. But let's apply this to a real character instead of just a bunch of spheres. So here I have Mr. Icicle, and I am gonna draw him real quick. Alright, I'm using Control T to move him around, by the way. So that is him. Let's color him in real quick. So I'm going to create a layer underneath him. Alright, so let's try a different light source this time. Let's suppose that the lighting is coming from here and hitting the plane like this. Where would the shading go? So I'm going to create a new layer above the coloring clipping mask. Any color will do. That's fairly dark. Let's set it to a multiply layer, or really anything. You can experiment with this one. Just make sure it makes your colors darker. That might be a little too bright. Yeah, that looks about right. Yeah, there we go. So, since the light source is coming from here, I'm going to shade all of the opposite planes, like this. And I want you to consider each little object in here and create a separate little stroke of shading for it. Account for the shadow underneath it, as well as the shading on top of it. Alright, so this is a flat plane on top of here, so it would be good to add some highlights there actually that make it look more flat and create that illusion. So I'm going to create a new layer on top of this shading, clipping mask. Let's do what filter here would make it brighter? Let's just go with soft light. That'll do the trick. Let's go in with our yellow. The color doesn't really matter, but I want to make it look bright, so I'm using yellow. How about airbrush for that nice airy texture? And I'm gonna just select the certain plane that I want to target right now. And I'm gonna work on that specific area. Alright. Now we're just gonna target the rest of it. That's looking really nice. There we go. We want to put this highlights. We want to put these highlights where the light is. So that's about it. Let's take this guideline here away. And yeah, this is pretty much our finished product. You need to pay attention to where your light source is, create shadows and shading in the opposite direction of that, and create highlights in the general area where your light source is coming from. Thanks for watching.